Pokemon is pretty funny when it comes to difficulty. See, it's a stupid game for dumb babies, so of course the first thing that everyone tries to do is to make it harder on them, just to feel a little bit better playing the game. And so the Nuzlocke was born. You probably know what that is. TLDR for those that somehow missed it. You can only capture one Pokemon per location, and if they faint, they die. And just this was the birth of a phenomenon that I find interesting to think about. See, everyone and their mothers has their variant of their Nuzlockes, everyone seems to enjoy doing it, and then there comes me. I hope this video doesn't come off as just, oh, a local person has skill issues and wants to yap about them. It is a bit that, to be honest, but it's something more than that I really want to talk about. I just needed to talk about it also, because I also want to talk about what makes Nuzlockes a bit frustrating for me. But first, I want to talk about what actually makes them fun. First off, I think Nuzlockes are very good at making you actually think about the game you're playing as. What I mean by that is, a lot of Pokemon games look, feel, and play like each other, if you know what I mean. If you play Diamond, or if you play Black and White, or if you play X and Y, you won't actually play a different way. If you're the kind of person that only plays with a starter, you can do that in most of their games. If you're the kind of person that captures a lot of Pokemon, you can do that in most of these games. And you will eventually fall into the same habits of team building. And a Nuzlocke actually requires you to think about what you're doing, which I think is very good. One of my favorite types of Nuzlocke are ones with level caps. Not exactly hardcore Nuzlockes, so hardcore Nuzlockes are level cap plus no healing item. And I think there's something else that I'm probably forgetting. But anyway, level cap in particular I think is funny because it requires you to actually play with Pokemons you would never play before. Just because your stronger mods are not a good fit because of the level cap, because of the moveset at that level, etc. Because they might not be evolved and get either a second type or the stats that actually makes them good. So that's already way better. And also you start to think about the encounters you can get. Because obviously if you don't get an encounter you like outside of the Nuzlocke, you just try and fight it again. But you kind of have to make do with the Nuzlocke, which I think is pretty cool. When I listen to my little insanity, I also, like, my perfect kind of Nuzlocke basically is level cap, healing items, either won by battle or I don't limit it, it depends on how I feel or if I know the game enough. I like adding in a little bit of randomizer to get random encounters, random fights. I like double battles because double battles are cool, I love double battles. And generally I play with XP candy because I feel like the leveling up grind is the least favorite part of Nuzlocke so far. Especially once you start actually losing Pokemon and you have to like XP the Pokemon that have been sleeping in your boxes for like weeks. It doesn't feel that great. And I want to pivot on the other things I think feel awful on Nuzlockes. And that is how bad my brain runs in Nuzlockes. So, I want to say, I'm not exactly a Pokemon professional. I make a lot of mistakes, I forget quite a bit of things, and my judgment can be a bit inaccurate sometimes. But, generally speaking, I think I'm not doing too badly. Something happens when I play in Nuzlocke, where suddenly I lose every single ability to the fear. Fear makes me take such a bad set of actions that I'll always come to regret, and I've never managed to learn from it. The added stress of losing one of your Pokemons is really amazing because, oh, one of the rules I've forgotten about, which I don't know if it's an actual hard rule, but a lot of people do it, is having to name your Pokemon so you get attached to them. And motherfucker, it works! It really does! I genuinely got really attached to one of the Pokemons I caught during a Soul Link with one of my friends, that I got heartbroken when they died. And that was difficult for us to actually pick that back up because I'm emotional. And in general, I also think that for some particular games, Nuzlockes can kind of reveal little cracks in the game design that are less bad when you play normally. And the first one I'm really thinking of here is Ultra Necrozma, which is dumb. It's a dumb, stupid fight that has no reason to exist. I hate the Ultra games. I love Base Alola, I hate the Ultra games, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's a fight that's way harder out of nowhere with a Pokemon that has a lot of stats that probably outlevel you, etc, etc. And on a Nuzlocke, it's funny. I'll say that, it's funny. I think that if you were to do a Pokemon XD Nuzlocke also, you would have that same kind of problem with Shadow Pokemon, because Shadow Pokemon are not well designed in XD. In Colosseum, they kind of whatever. In XD, they're annoying. And especially that final boss, XD's final boss gives me nightmares still. But yeah, some of the flaws there, but also, and this is probably the worst one, but for me specifically, I feel Nuzlockes are either way too difficult or way too easy, and I've never had a good balanced difficult Nuzlockes, and I'm really interested to see if it's just an only me thing. But basically what it comes down to is that games on which I've actually put in a ton of time, so that would be the Owen games, that would be the first G games, or its remake of I Red Left Green, that would be X and Y, 6G in general. I am very confident in my ability to run a Nuzlocke on these. It's went fine before. Other than when I got the randomizer and I got Dragon Rage because I forgot to untick the little checkbox in the randomizer that makes people not use Dragon Rage at early level. But that's fine, that was my fault. But yeah, Pokemon games I actually know, no problems. If you were to ask me to run a Nuzlocke on an Alola game, I think I would get decimated. And in general, a lot of the mileage you get out of Nuzlocke is actually harnessing the knowledge you have both of Pokemon in general, Pokemon as in the monsters themselves, and the current game that you're running. So unless you're playing in with special rules, I feel like that knowledge either allows you to run it pretty much okay, or just you die because you don't know shit. Well, I'm sure I'm wrong to some degree, but that's what it feels like to me at least. Now, of course, something else I want to talk about is how people kind of do Nuzlockes in public. I guess what I mean is how people actually share the Nuzlockes. That makes more sense. Something I've noticed is that over time, Nuzlockes went outside of being just pure gaming challenges to being these kind of narrative experiences that a lot of people do. Even people, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna name drop him, Alpharad, which I don't exactly associate with big narrative content in my head. He's definitely more of a silly internet content man. Puts this narrative spin on Nuzlockes. He might even be one of the first one to do it on largely seen videos. But I found that was interesting, because of course it made me think about the format in itself, and when you think about it, it does indeed feel well suited for this. Because you've got a setting that everyone knows, you've got a little bit of challenge, you've got, of course, drama, you've got key moments and turnabouts, one could say. So yeah, it makes sense that people would turn these into narrative little pieces, but it is kind of funny to me, because I remember when people would basically only do webcomics of these, that was indeed turning them into little stories. Then it got popular on YouTube, but as a gaming challenge, and now it's going back into being a narrative little thing. I don't know, I just think it's funny how these things kind of work. Personally speaking, I really like the videos made by The Dawn. I'm not calling him like this because it's a thing in his channel, I'm calling him like this because I don't actually know how to pronounce his fucking YouTube channel's name. I genuinely think that's the perfect mix of Nuzlockes as gaming challenges and Nuzlockes as little stories you can follow. I really do love his stuff in general. Well, yeah, this isn't even a critique on it, mind you. I just like looking from afar how those things change. And speaking of how things change, something that I would really like to change is for Pokemon to actually put in some damn meat on its bones when it comes to difficulty. Just, I've seen, again, I think Nuzlockes are a bit too either overkill or nothing burger when it comes to actually upgrading your difficulty. Depends on how experienced you really are and sometimes how lucky you are. But it's mostly experience, to be honest. Experience and applied knowledge. And I really would love a Pokemon game to give us some other kind of challenges. They are also a bit either all or nothing when it comes to difficulty, in my opinion. An example I like to take is the Gen 3 or Gen 4 games where you basically never struggle for 20, 30 hours of gameplay, and then you reach the battle frontier and all hell breaks loose. And suddenly you're facing a wall, you don't understand what's happening, and your ass is just getting kicked over and over again. Battle facilities aren't as difficult nowadays, but there's still a little bit of that gap between the base game and them that makes me feel... I don't know, it just feels like there's nothing to prepare you for these. That you'll just in the baby park and then suddenly boom, the highway. Without a car. I would really like a hard mode, basically, and Black and White had these, but you had to unlock it with a different game, so the whole thing that was a little bit stupid. Like, give us a hard mode that, like, enforces level caps, enforces a party cap. Like, for example, if you fight an early gym leader with only 2 Pokemon, then you can only register 2 Pokemon of your own to fight the gym leader. I would love just for that as a difficulty setting. Of course, you can always kind of do it yourself, but it's annoying. It's annoying. And that idea, admittedly, isn't new. I saw it in, I think it was a Fire Red Womack. I thought it was interesting. There's tons of little things that this series could do to implement difficulty without killing, basically, the casual install base, which is most of the fan base. We've got to remember that. But as often with Pokemon, it's hard to realize how much one specific demand is popular. This is one of the biggest media IPs, so even if you think that an opinion is popular, it probably isn't as much as you think it is. And again, they don't need to change anything. That's the thing that always difficult for Pokemon. They never need to change anything at all, because they're successful. They have always been, they probably always will be. In the meanwhile, we continue to make our own little challenges, our own little stories. And if both challenges and stories in Pokemon games suck, I guess we will continue to do it that way. I went out of Nuzlockes for a second there. But yeah, I just like talking about Nuzlockes and taking them as just like its own phenomenon in itself, but also a side effect of how Pokemon games are in themselves. Because this is what it is to me. Nuzlockes are consequences of Pokemon and its design philosophy. When you look at it through this prism, I guess it's fortunate that Pokemon games suck ass in some ways, because people do stand up to the plate and try to fix things themselves, and that's always a bit beautiful. And if someone ever wants to run a Nuzlocke of XD, please link me to the video. I want to see if you can actually survive this troubly designed game. Distressingly absurd little piece of media. Bye-bye.